One second. Just close the door.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to close the door. Although it looked okay because there were some things I could see some of the CDs and books through that as well. So it was a good visual actually. You destroyed my visual, Jed.
Oh no, I'll open the door. It's just that my wife is in the front room taking a yoga class.
Oh, I see. It's okay.
But I'll open the door. Here. It's okay. Here. There we go.
I like the visual from far, the books. And anyway, we are already live anyway, so people are going to see our fighting over the door.
Okay.
Two Italian son-in-laws messing up with each other, isn't it? One American, one Indian. So friends, welcome to the 68th YaarAnād Virtual Baithak Series Mēlā, and it is my pleasure to be in conversation with pianist and composer Jed Distler. Well, I'm a little shy because he actually presents on the radio and I'm just a fakester. I don't know what it is to host conversations and so on. So Jed, so you'll have to really hold your puke for later.
Oh, no. Oh, come on.
I must be such an embarrassment.
No. I'm very happy to be here. It's wonderful to meet you.
Yeah, my pleasure, really. So, Jed, friends, is an American composer, pianist, educator, and critic. So he's going to be criticizing me online. Okay. He taught at the Sarah Lawrence College for over 2 decades. He doesn't look as old. Having studied with Andrew Thomas, Stanley Lock, and William Komaiko. He distinguished himself, or as he claims, early in his career for transcribing the jazz piano solos of Tatus or Tatus. How do you pronounce, Jed?
Tatum. Or Tatum.
Tatum.
Yes.
And Bill Evans. His present recital Evans. Okay, his present recitals have premiered works by Virgil Thomas and Richard Rodney Bennet, among others. Distler's Composers Collaborative holds a 2013 Guinness World Record for the world's largest keyboard ensemble, featuring 175 keyboards playing a piece of his. Distler, you, I'm told, you are a creator, host, and also producer at Between the Keys, an award-winning weekly program on wwfm.org, the classical network. So, dosto, Jed Distler jade hange. I'll just say a couple of words in Punjabi, my mother tongue.
Sure.
Making sure my mommy is not going to be furious at me from the skies. And if my dad gets upset, it can be quite a story. The evening becomes eventful. So I wouldn't want that. So let me introduce you in Punjabi as well to my folks who speak Punjabi around the world. दोस्तों मेरी बड़ी खुशनसीबी है जेड डिस्लर ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਕੰਪੋਜ਼ਰ ਹਨਗੇ ਪਿਆਨਿਸਟ ਹਨਗੇ ਸਿੱਖਸ਼ਕ ਹਨਗੇ ਤੇ ਕ੍ਰਿਟਿਕ ਵੀ ਹਨ ਯਾਨੀ ਕਿ ਨੁਕਤਾਚੀਨ ਵੀ ਹਨਗੇ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਨੁਕਤਾਚੀਨ would be a nosy fellow. I'm translating you as a critic as a nosy felon. Jed, that's the hilarious, the humor-laced Punjabi translation of your being a critic. ਤੇ ਦੋਸਤੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸੇਰਾ ਲਾਰੈਂਸ ਕਾਲਜ ਵਿੱਚ 2 ਦਹਾਕੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸੰਗੀਤ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਐਂਡਰੂ ਥਾਮਸ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਸਟੈਨਲੀ ਲੌਕ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਤੇ ਵਿਲੀਅਮ ਕੋਮਾਈਕੋ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੈਜ਼ ਪਿਆਨੋ ਸੋਲੋਜ਼ ਵਜਾਉਣ 'ਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਮੁਹਾਰਤ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹੀਏ ਨਾਮ ਨਾਲ ਖੱਟ ਲਿਆ ਸੀ ਟੇਟਸ ਤੇ ਬਿਲ ਐਵਨਸ ਦਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਜਾਇਆ ਔਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁਣ ਦੇ ਰਿਸਾਈਟਲਸ ਹਨਗੇ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਰਜਲ ਥਾਮਸ ਤੇ ਰਿਚਰਡ ਰੌਡਨੀ ਬੈਨਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਕੀਤੇ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਕੰਪੋਜ਼ਰਸ ਕੋਲੈਬੋਰੇਟਿਵ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਿਹਨੇ 2013 ਦਾ ਗਿਨਸ ਵਰਲਡ ਰਿਕਾਰਡ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਵ ਰਿਕਾਰਡ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਥਾਪਿਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਕੀਬੋਰਡ ਐਨਸੈਂਬਲ ਸੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ 175 ਕੀਬੋਰਡ ਸਨ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਣਾਈ ਹੋਈ ਕੰਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬੰਦਿਸ਼ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਰਚਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਪੀਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਜਾਇਆ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਯਾਨੀ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਰ ਹਨਗੇ ਹੋਸਟ ਵੀ ਹਨਗੇ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਬਿਟਵੀਨ ਦ ਕੀਜ਼ ਨਾਮਕ ਇੱਕ ਅਵਾਰਡ ਵਿਨਿੰਗ ਵੀਕਲੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ wwfm.org ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਲਾਸੀਕਲ ਨੈਟਵਰਕ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ So Jed, welcome to the Virtual Baithak Series again. I'm so glad you could take time out and join me in this Virtual Baithak.
Well, I'm very happy to be here, and I think this is the first time I have ever been introduced in Punjabi, in fact.
Well, much happens. The world is quite changed. You live in Trumpistan and I live in Hindustan, so at least we are Stanis.
Yes.
I was so amused before. Yes, go ahead, continue.
No, nothing. I was just saying, I was thinking that New York City, where I live, is such a melting pot, and you walk wherever you walk, it's the United Nations all over the place. So
yes, I would say it's also somehow the world capital in a way. London, here, New York, they're quite global abodes. San Francisco, even Los Angeles, it's quite unique, the places. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think it's very healthy that it's like that. I think that, and I think also when we're talking about music, certainly with the radio show that I present, Between the Keys, I'm always discovering pianists and music from countries and cultures that I really had no idea was going on, and it's like a constant state of discovery, because when people talk about classical music, they think about what we like to call dead male Austrians, like Bach and Beethoven. But the truth is that there's so much out there, and I'm always discovering things and then seeing how composers maybe from Ethiopia or from Jamaica, somehow they relate to, the Austrian-German tradition. You always find these commonalities. And I think that when just looking at all the protests all over the world, I think that this is a universal thing, because justice is something that's universal. It's not just for one race or for one culture. I think this is what everyone wants, Okay, end of my political philosophies. Now we can talk about music.
Talking of New York, it's always fun to take the drive, I've been riding these cabs, and every time I would meet in New York is somebody from Somalia, somebody from, East Europe, some country, it's quite interesting. Every time there's another nationality who's driving me around, So it's from Jersey City too, where my niece Ishwardeep, Brumleen and her husband Ishwardeep, usually I'm holed there, and it's quite. I don't have that experience in any other cities when I take taxis very often. It's quite interesting.
In that sense, New York almost has nothing to do with the rest of the United States, because the United States is so big. And sometimes when I travel and give concerts in small communities in other states, I get a strange sense of isolation sometimes. But then I think that, and then there's some interesting multicultural pockets in the Midwest and different places. So I can't, it's not good to generalize about everything. I think I've learned that the hard way. Yeah.
By the way, coming back to the music, there's some pianist and artist researcher called Juicy Caruso. Do you know her? She just sent 4 claps.
Oh my God! Yes.
She's joining. Do you know her?
Yes, indeed, I do know her. We only met, I think, 2 years ago. We met in Milano, and she's an extraordinary musician and pianist. And I met her. Actually, I was the one that sought her out, and it's because she had made a recording of music of Jacques Carpentier, who was a French composer who wrote a series of 72 piano etudes based on traditional Carnatic music and the 72 ragas, or the 72 scales. And I had known about this piece, so I was fascinated with it, and it's not every day that someone records this piece complete. but she made a recording, and I was fascinated because she not only learned to play the notes, but she actually did the research as far as how do you play these rags? What are the dances actually like? So she studied the traditional dances, and she studied the singing, really went to the source. And I think that really informed her interpretations. So I was really intrigued. So I just wrote her an email saying, I am fascinated by your work, and I'm going to be in Italy because my wife and I have a place in Milano when we're not in New York. And so as it turned out, we were both in Milano at the same time. We met, and we just got along very well. And I helped arrange for her to perform the entire cycle of the Carpentier Etudes in New York last year. This is 3 hours of music.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big undertaking. And she had not been to New York, so she came and just to get to know the city, and it turned out that we had a lot in common. Also, she came to Paris last year. She lives in Brussels because my wife is a painter, and she had an art exhibit in Paris. So Juicy came from Brussels to Paris for the exhibit, and we spent time. So we've become good friends, and I hope we're going to collaborate on something next year. We don't know, but we are constantly in touch.
Yeah.
But
Juicy, now you owe me, because I coaxed Jed to praise you, and so you owe me. Okay.
But no, it's true. I mean,
I know. It's true, but I was just teasing her. Yeah. Anyway,
yes.
So coming to you, you've about your playing of Frederick, Ruski. You've worked with with him directly, is it?
Yeah, yes, Frederick Rzewski actually is how you pronounce his, but that's okay. Yes, well, he's a wonderful composer and pianist, and who's, I think his music has gotten a lot more attention over the past maybe 20 years than it ever has, and he's an American composer. Actually, he also is based in Brussels, as is Juicy Caruso, and I met him when I was a teenager, when Frederick was living in New York at the time. And I remember going to hear him play concerts, and the idea of someone who could improvise, he wasn't not a jazz improviser, but he was improvising more with like contemporary classical music. But somebody who was playing contemporary music and improvising, and also he was playing in a lot of interesting small venues at the time. And for me, I was kind of torn between the jazz life, because when I was very young, I thought I was going to be a jazz pianist, and it didn't quite work out that way. But I was also interested in contemporary classical music. So seeing Frederick playing, I thought, oh, maybe I can do this when I grow up. So we became friendly, but we didn't really get to know one another, I think, until the late 1980s, because I was performing his music, and then I presented him in concert several times in New York, and we've had a very close friendship over the decades, and he's written some pieces for me. We have performed concerts on two pianos, improvising together. So it's he's a wonderful colleague.
Yeah,
and
the four hands piano, I guess you guys played together. Yeah.
Well, two pianos, actually.
Yeah.
Four hands we've read informally at my house, although I do have two pianos now in my home.
And in spite of that, you're not going to play for us today. I hate you already, by the way.
Oh, well, I mean, I could play. I don't know how the sound is. I'd have to set everything up all over again. But I mean, let's see. I don't know what I could play. I could probably get some Scarlatti Sonata or something.
But I know that we're going to be sharing with all our friends who are joining some of the recordings that you've shared with us. I mean, you've sent me.
Oh.
And but of course, it'll be wonderful to actually see you, let your fingers dance some on the keyboard.
I don't know. I haven't been practicing. When I'm composing, I don't practice, although I have to start practicing. Well, I have my concerts. Hopefully in 2021, all the concerts will start up again because I have quite a few concerts that I'm committed to playing, so I'm going to have to start practicing again.
So it'll be wonderful to, in any case, see you touch a few keys later. How was it the conversation with Zewski that he composed for you? What was it like being composed for? I mean, what did he see in your playing? What was it in your playing that he was responding to?
I don't think he was particularly responding to anything. I think he was just writing the music he wanted to write because he's a pianist, and I think he just writes the way he wants to write, and one just has to play it. So I don't.
He just expected you to deal with. He just expected you to deal with it, whatever he does, whatever he writes.
Well, I think most composers are like that. One can tailor something to. It's a good question because when I've been commissioned by pianists, I don't think so much about their personalities, but what I do think about, and this is a good question, is if a pianist commissions me and I ask, do you have large hands? Because my hands are not very large, but I know a lot of pianists whose hands are smaller, so I can't write very wide stretches. So if I know that I'm writing for a pianist with a smaller hand stretch than me, then I will be very careful not to write something that perhaps would come more easily to me. This is a very interesting thing. Like somebody like Rachmaninoff had huge hands, and he basically wrote piano music tailored to his own ability. So there's certain things like very big chords that if you are a pianist who can barely reach an octave, like Alicia de la Rocha, she played his third piano concerto, but she had to reconfigure a lot of the notes to accommodate her small hands. But then Rachmaninoff he doesn't write, there's certain kinds of patterns that he does not write because maybe they didn't come easily to him. I don't know. This is a danger, I think. And, I often use the piano when I compose, but a lot of time I feel like I'm better off when I'm not using the piano because then I'm not doing what my hands are doing. I'm trying to do what my brain is doing instead. But I'll tell you, with Frederick, what's interesting is he wrote a piece about almost 20 years ago, a large-scale work that is called The Road, and he calls it a novel for the piano, and it's about 8 hours of piano music.
Whoa.
And Frederick does a lot of things where he will sometimes use sound effects, like he will slap the side of the piano or he will tap on the piano lid. You're hearing my piano lid in the background. And he does that quite a bit. And anyway, Frederick and I were sitting in our kitchen. I have a big kitchen, and we were sitting at the breakfast table. And we were talking about writing music for the piano lid. And I was saying to Frederick, if you don't have any inspiration, what you could do is you could play a piano piece that's already in existence on the piano lid, and nobody would know the piece. Like, for instance, you could play a piece of Chopin. That's the Revolutionary Etude. See, that I'm taking the Chopin rhythm and playing it on the tabletop. So I say, you can just take a Beethoven sonata, write the rhythms out, play it on the tabletop, and you have your own piece. And I think I think I must have put an idea in his head, because then maybe a month later, one of the pieces in the Road, which is about 30 minutes long, uses a lot of the piano lid, and he dedicated it to me. I was completely surprised, but I was really honored, But it's funny, because other piano pieces that have been dedicated to me really have not taken my personality into consideration. They're just regular piano pieces, and I just have to learn the notes,
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm reminded, because most of the percussion that I learned from my teacher, Bhai Baldeep Singh Tarangar, he was 70 years senior. He was born 1900 and 69 years senior to me. And he only showed it to me on his knees. He didn't have the drums no more. So, and then we are all known to,
Yeah.
So we've practiced some. So that's very, very shocking for me to see that even you guys have done work on the piano lid. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not as virtuosic as Alla Raka, I'm afraid. But I used to remember seeing Ravi Shankar and Alla Raka together, and they would. And Ravi Shankar would sing, I think he would sing, he would give the pattern, and Alla Raka would play back.
Yeah.
When in the jaw of, whatever rag that they were doing. And it was very virtuosic and fun to see that.
Yeah, and then also about talking about, yes, go ahead. I lost your voice for a moment.
No, you, please.
Yeah, about Zuski, he wrote quite a set of variations on the theme "United, We'll Never Be Defeated."
Yes,
my friend Cheslav, who's a pianist, he told me that after the Goldberg Variations and Beethoven's the Abelli Variations, the Abelli. Is considered the biggest set of variations ever written for the piano, and
no, not necessarily. No. It's not the biggest. No, there are many bigger sets of variations. I think People United has become very popular in the last 20 years with younger pianists. It's a big set, but there are many large sets of variations. I can think there's a piece by Ronald Stevenson, which is I don't know if I'd call it variations. It's a passacaglia based on the composer Shostakovich, on the name D-A-C-H. D-A-C-H. No, it's sorry, I did it backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it, but and this is a big set of variations. The passacaglia on DSCH. There are Alastair Hinton has a set of variations on a theme of Grieg that is much longer than the People United. So now, but People United is very popular. It's a wonderful piece. And I think many young pianists take it up because, well, first of all, because it's easily available, because it was published. But Frederick has written some big variation sets. I don't know if they're larger, but like within the Road, for instance, there are large variation sets. Yeah, so I think it certainly has gotten a lot of attention, but there are also, there was a composer, Anton Reicha, who was the Czech composer. He was a contemporary of Beethoven. He wrote a big set of variations called L'Art de Varier. And this, I consider this to be the missing link between the Goldberg Variations and the Diabelli Variations. I think it is a absolutely marvelous piece. Also, there is a piece by a young composer and pianist who's based in Toronto. His name is Stuart Goodyear. And this is a piece that's about 1 hour long, and it's a set of variations on the Beatles song Eleanor Rigby. It is a fantastic piece of music, and I wish he would record it, because I've heard excerpts from it. It's a fascinating set of variations. So People United it's an interesting piece, and it's a piece that I admire very much. I was actually at the New York premiere of the People United when Ursula Oppens played it. And, I remember the first time I heard it, I hated it. I thought this was the most pretentious piece ever written, because I thought, this is fake Rachmaninoff, this is fake Boulez, this is fake minimalism. It just seemed to be imitating all these styles, and it was going on and on and on, and it seemed like it would never end. And I hated the piece with a passion, and I never wanted to hear it again. And it was very different than what I expected. But then about 6 months later, I heard Frederick play the piece in a small concert. Actually, the first half of the concert, he played Beethoven's Hammerklavier Sonata. And then the second half, he played the People United. And I liked it a lot more this second time. Although, I don't, this is a different conversation. I love the piece, but then I feel like the last 10 minutes, I've always had problems with it, because I feel that he's trying very hard to sum up everything that came before. And it's a little bit forced for me. I feel like, but that's only my opinion. I think it works, and I understand the structure of it. But then I remember years ago, the pianist Earl Wild told me that he thought that the Diabelli Variations were too long. And one can see that. But the trick is, like, how do you make these things work? As an interpreter, you have to sell the work to the public. And how do you, if there are things that bother you about the piece of music, how do you get past that? This is always the interpreter's task. It's really like being an actor with Shakespeare. Okay, how do you, there are the wonderful monologues, but then what about this passage you don't understand? Well, you have to figure out how to, put that together like an interpreter. But I don't know, I'm wandering all over the place here.
No, this is very good. This is good. I'm meeting Jed the critic.
Well, I think it's the critic and the composer and the interpreter.
It's educative. It's I like it. I'm learning. I'm learning a lot. And
but what I'm saying is that I think that certainly one often talks about the People United as being a set of variations. It's certainly in the tradition, let's say, of the Goldberg Variations and the Diabelli Variations, certainly because it does have a very specific structure that unifies everything. But also I think that the piano repertoire is so vast. There is so much music out there that I don't know, and there's so many interesting composers and pieces of not only big pieces but small pieces. Actually, I have been writing small pieces. I've been, this year is the Beethoven 250th anniversary. Now, the year 2027 is the 200th anniversary of Beethoven's death. So since there are too many projects for the 250th birthday, what I've been doing is I am composing 1,827 bagatelles. Whoa. That's 1820, the year Beethoven died. 1,827 bagatelles, which will all be finished by 2027. And each bagatelle is dedicated to a different pianist or a different friend, a different musical colleague. So far I've written about maybe 390.
Wow.
So I have a long way to go.
Right.
And I was forcing myself to try to write one a day. Now some of them are very, very short. Like some of them are 10 seconds. But and I've been enjoying that a lot. And this is a project where I'm considering this really like my gift to the piano community.
I see.
Kind of like my legacy to the piano community. But and they can be played either together or separately as big groups, small groups, whatever you want to do. There's no structure really.
But that's very moving, very intimate for me to hear, because this Virtual Baithak Series, YaarAnād, Anād being my foundation, the Anād Foundation, and YaarAnād is basically Friends of Anād, our little group that we have, all our board of advisors, friends and volunteers and so on and so forth. And this is dedicated to the 550th birth anniversary of Gurū Nānak, the founder of the Sikh faith. So for me, that's why I said it's very intimate for me to see that you're also responding to the 250th birth anniversary, and then until the 200th death anniversary. And people ask me, how is it that, it's the 68th Virtual Baithak, and many of them have gone to 6 hours, 8 hours, single Baithak, How do you keep up? Mm-hmm. I think there's a particular romance, and it doesn't tire. I'm spending about 21 hours a day, between, when I began, I was like 57 hours is the longest I logged without sleep. And I had done like 3 Baithaks in between that. It's quite something, isn't it? How you're responding to it, the way it comes, the music. I mean, to think of 1,000 plus, compositions, as you mentioned, about 1,800 or 1,300. How many did you say?
No, it's 1,827.
So that's a number. That's a serious number. You already logged 300 plus. I think it's a kind of a romance. It's something that pours out. You don't have to create it; it just comes pouring out, isn't it? Once it begins. How's your experience?
Well, of course, I try to be spontaneous, but then sometimes I do revise. As composers always do that. I think that it's not just with piano, but especially if you think about all the great orchestra composers. They were revising all the time because, they hear something and you never know how many. Back then, like in the time of Mahler, you never knew he would conduct a symphony, a new symphony of his, and then he'd make revisions. And even someone like Mahler, who was such an experienced conductor and orchestrator, you don't always calculate in the right way. So one is always making these changes. And I think that this is, you think about Beethoven constantly grasping with, these kinds of things. I don't know. It's totally the opposite of improvisation, where you don't revise. You have to, if you make a mistake, you have to get out of the mistake in the moment, It's a completely different animal, so to speak.
So let's play something for, you've sent me 11 files, and some of them are short. Are these part of what you're writing for, part of the 300 plus you've written, or these are separate?
Well, no, actually the music I sent you has nothing to do with that. The music I sent you, one piece that is actually for 2 pianos called Loose Changes.
Yeah.
And that's about 10 minutes long. And it's Actually, it's a little group. It's a group of 10 short pieces for two pianos, and they are kind of unified. It's like a little suite, and that was a commission. And the other thing I sent you actually was from a new CD that came out of songs by Thelonious Monk, the great jazz composer and pianist. And what happened was about 9 years ago, I started getting back into improvising after a while. And I decided that I wanted to play Thelonious Monk's complete songs in one concert, just because it was a way I thought this is a great way to try to get attention. So, and I did this in a few venues, and then eventually I was invited to record the complete Monk, which I did a few years ago, but we decided not to release the complete song CD. We took the best of them, the best of the session. So I think there are about 29 or 30 songs on the CD. So I think I sent you excerpts. But what I find is interesting about this is that I'm going back to my jazz roots, but it comes from the sensibility of someone who's played a lot of classical and contemporary classical music. So I guess it's kind of a hybrid. I don't know if it's jazz or classical. I mean, does it really matter what it is? So maybe we can listen to a few of those.
Let's start with what I would my selfish interest would be to what we play. You tell is to somehow tell the anecdotes related, the stories related with the track that we do. Let's begin with the loose changes, and let me see if I can just bring your poster. Let me design the screen people will see, or we can actually we can just be on on screen as well. But I'll mute ourselves so that people will just hear the music and not us when we gossip along when we hear.
So you could play the whole piece or play some of it, whatever.
We can play the whole thing. Loose changes. You won't hear it, so don't worry. You won't hear it. Only the people. All right. I'll get to hear it, and everybody else would. Yeah. So we won't bore you.
And I should tell you. Okay, and I should tell you that the performers are a duo called Quattro Mani, 4 hands, and the pianists are Susan Grace and Alice Rybak. And this comes from a CD on the Bridge label called Kindred Spirits.
Okay. Here we go then. I'll start. To see. Second. Here we go. There we are. So that was a fantastic piece, Jed.
Thank
for
you.
me, it somehow reminded me of life, of the world as it is. Yeah.
Well,
The silence to activity, and then there is even then the ending. Tell me about this piece.
And it's a fugue, actually. That last movement is a fugue, but it has that big pompous end. I think I just had to give it an ending, and I thought, how do you end a piece with a big bang? But I guess maybe it's like life in a sense that maybe it's not predictable in spots. Yeah. But there's also repetition, but within the repetitions, there are variations. And there are two movements where the pianist can play their parts independently of each other at whatever pace they want. So you have that sense of randomness, which probably is about life. I'm just reading all this into what you said, but I don't know. In a way, I remember we were talking about Frederick Rzewski before, and he often told me that a piece of music should be like real life. He likes when music resembles real life in a sense that it's unpredictable, where you will be going about your way and then all of a sudden something happens that you don't expect. And I think it's really about not that the unpredictable things happen and the unpleasant things happen. It's not so much about what happens. It's about what you do about what happens. How do you respond to the challenges? How do you respond to disaster? How do you react? How do you, if something makes you angry, how do you use the anger as positive energy? So these are all these questions. How do you use frustration and not turn it against yourself? How do you use that for action? And this is what we are all grappling about all over the world now. And this is what I was talking to a friend of mine, and I think that, we're talking about the Beethoven 250th birthday, and I think that we always kind of go back to Beethoven, at least with Western listeners, because you have this incredible mixture of form and content, and always a sense of struggle and just facing the challenges head on. And in the end, he usually always triumphs. Just think of a piece like the Fifth Symphony, which has been played 100 million gazillion times. And it's such a cliche, but you have the first movement, the big struggle and the knocking at the door, and then you have the beautiful lyrical movement, second movement, and then the lyricism continues in the third movement, but then you have the fugue and it's developing, and then you have that big triumphant finale. So that's kind of a metaphor. And there's small wonder that Toscanini used that symphony as a metaphor for the triumph over evil in World War II. I'm not saying that my piano piece has any of that importance, but just talking about music and life and how it communicates, I don't know.
No. In fact, it was interesting that for me, it seemed like the world itself, the entire gamut. And it's 10 minutes, so there's a chance to somehow portray the entire horizon, if I may. Horizon being how we see it from where we are. That's why I'm using the term horizon. Yeah. We cannot see beyond that, of course.
Maybe, like the first piece is very minimal and kind of amorphous, and it's full of all these cloudy textures, and then all of a sudden there's an interruption. And then you get into that which just sounds like a Liszt Hungarian Rhapsody with the record stuck in the needle. and it keeps repeating and repeating, but then there are variations in the repeating, and then the next piece is a little more abstract, and then you have the more watery textures, and so maybe you're right.
Right.
I don't know.
And when we play the next piece, is there a curtain in the window in front of you, because it's reflecting a lot from on your glasses, the light, or maybe you can change your angle. Yeah, this is a good angle. Yeah, maybe can you shift to your left? No, don't move the computer. Computer is back there. Just move your chair angle. Yeah, this is good angle for me. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
And you can be a bit to your right, Yeah, like that. Just an angle. Just change the angle of the away from the window. Yeah. Thank you very much. In fact, Juicy Caruso, of course, says it's amazing, but then she says, full of energies and passion is her reaction to the piece. That she heard, and your friend Mirul Ganiman says it was like water. So that's and then there's one gentleman called Amarjeet Singh, a Punjabi fellow Punjabi, who says like sounds of Mother Nature. I'll let you respond to all of these comments. Yeah.
Well, if that's what they hear, then it's there. I'm not going to argue.
Oh, you won't?
You hear
no pushback? How dare you call it Mother Nature?
Oh, you can, music is, you can define it. You hear what you hear and you take whatever it is from it. It's not my, look, I wrote the piece. It's not mine anymore. It belongs to who plays it. It belongs to who hears it. The only thing that belongs to me is the copyright.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, now also belongs to me because of this YaarAnād. You've played it, and so now it belongs to both of us.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, but yes, I think that's very beautiful. I think the beauty of composing and then sharing, letting the artwork go out, and how the listeners, learned and people who are unassuming, who are not musically literate, also they respond to it. And what feeling it somehow evokes out of them is always a story, isn't it? Revealing, actually, at times.
Well, I'm always learning from new music I hear, as I said to you at the beginning of our talk. I think because of my work in radio and as having presented contemporary music for many years in the past, I was constantly discovering new artists and composers and performers, and as I get older, I realize more and more what I don't know.
Right.
Just how much there is to learn, and there's just so much music I don't know, and I'm constantly delighted and surprised by it, and so that's what. I guess it kind of keeps me honest. It's just that when you feel like you know everything and you kind of stop, then it's very limiting. And I think that it's good to have opinions, but I think you have to kind of keep your mind open. Like I'll give you talking about opinions and critic. This is I just thought of this. I'm diverting, but I have written a lot of CD reviews, and I've also written booklet notes about Bach's Goldberg Variations. And we're talking about the Goldberg Variations. It's a very iconic piece. Many people have recorded it. I've reviewed many recordings, and I kind of made up my mind what are the best piano versions on record of the Goldberg Variations, and there are favorites of mine. But the pianist Lang Lang just made a recording of this, and he's a pianist who I think is incredibly talented, but sometimes I've found him a little vulgar or pandering to the masses. But I have to review this new recording of the Goldberg Variations with Long Long for gramophone. So I got an advance copy yesterday, and I didn't really know what to expect, but I put it on, and I thought, wow, this is very beautiful, heartfelt playing. Now, it's not maybe what you would do if you were a Bach specialist or a Baroque specialist. It's not, maybe it doesn't have the kind of economy maybe or classicism that Marie Pariah has, and it's much more affettuoso, so to speak. But within this point of view, there's so much that's beautiful and very heartfelt. And I haven't listened to all of it. I was just listening to parts of it, but I thought, he's entering a new phase maybe, and there's just something very genuine and beautiful. And also the ornamentation, I thought, had so much imagination and humor. So I'm looking forward to writing this review, but also it makes me think, wait, I may have my opinions about how the Goldberg Variation should go, but Long Long is telling me something new. And maybe I should just be a little open-minded. Let me hear what he's doing. I may agree, I may not, I may disagree, but he's making me think, yeah, this is one way to approach it. And then I go back to some other performances that may be in a similar free kind of style that I've forgotten about, like the Italian pianist Maria Tipo did a fantastic Goldberg Variations, but because she's not world famous, nobody knows this recording. And hers is very romantic and free, but still wonderful in its way. So when I write the review, I may make a reference to that. I don't know, But this is what's so interesting about, I think, with interpretation and as well as, compositions. I wonder what Bach would think about this, But then you think, like, if Chopin came back, who would Chopin think would be the best Chopin players? Like, would he like Horowitz? Would he like Rubinstein? Or like somebody like Liszt? We have no idea what Liszt played like because he didn't make any recordings. But who would he think is the authentic Liszt player? I mean, we have no way of knowing these things. Whereas, with composers who are closer to our time, we know Aaron Copland liked how Leonard Bernstein conducted his music, things like that.
But also, I mean, talking of the instrument, if Bach and Beethoven, these guys came, the idea of the contemporary piano, what has become of the piano in the recent decades, how would they respond to that? Or what would they do if they had their hands on the contemporary instrument that there is now? The kind of possibilities they could see, the way they saw then. I think it's all to do with seeing, isn't it? How much, like I was just reading random newspaper, there's a bird, they were talking about a bird that sees colors that are, not visible to humans. So I think some of these extraordinary composers are able to see that us ordinary mortals don't see. The way they see words, the way they see music, the way they see, the ability to express.
I think that, certainly I think Beethoven would have been delighted at modern pianos.
That's your assumption.
That's my assumption, but I don't know, maybe not. But I think but he was always complaining about one instrument or another, I think.
I see.
I think also Chopin, I think there's a letter from him saying about that he liked different pianos depending on his mood. And there's something to say about that. I mean, I'm a Steinway artist, so I'm committed to playing Steinways, but I have played many different instruments with great pleasure, and also, sometimes with the ancient instruments, a really well preserved forte piano can sound wonderful. But I think it also depends on the musician. It's not so much the instrument.
That's the point,
if I'm going to hear a harpsichord, I want to hear a great harpsichordist. I think it really depends on who's playing. It's really like that. But but one wonders what Bach would have thought about the Goldberg Variations being played on the accordion.
Yes.
Maybe he would have liked it, and maybe he would have had suggestion. I mean, I don't know, but it's, it's interesting to fantasize and project.
Yeah, but there's no
that.
doubt they would have liked it. I mean, who wouldn't want their music to be played, and good music to be played on different instruments? I mean, I just recently, had Dr. P.K. Ganesh, who plays Carnatic music on the saxophone. Eye-watering. I mean, the way he's able to sustain, the way he just, hovers on the higher sa, and the way he's able to control the breath. It was just moving. And I don't think whoever invented the saxophone in the modern way, all those keys and stuff, they wouldn't mind. Why are you playing Carnatic music? Or Tyagaraja or Muthuswami Dikshit or Shama Shastri wouldn't freak out. Purandar Das wouldn't freak out. Why are you playing my music on a saxophone or a violin? I think it's there to be played, and more the merrier. More instruments, more singing genres, more voices. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
I agree with you. I think most people would, I guess, but definitely I agree.
So what are we playing next? Shall we go to Bamsha Swing?
Oh, yeah. This is a song I was talking about my Thelonious Monk disc. Now this track, some of the Monk tracks I don't really improvise on, where I will play the song, but I completely rearrange it or derange it. But then there's some tracks where I'm improvising in a more free kind of way. And what I like about this version of Bamsha Swing is that I'm really expanding on it harmonically, and I'm just letting my imagination go. And I'm very, very fond of this track. I especially like what I came up with at the ending. I think it has the best ending I have ever improvised on anything. But I think you'll enjoy it.
That was a self-pat. You just praised yourself, Jed.
Why not? I passed it for release, and I'm very proud of of this.
Looking forward to that. How long is this? In duration-wise, so that people have.
It's I think it's almost 4 minutes, perhaps.
So, people, brace yourself. that was quite it was very beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And when did you write this, Bamsha Swing?
Monk, I don't know, I think that song comes from the 50s. I think Monk wrote most of his songs from the late 30s through the beginning of the 60s, and he wrote, less and less as he kind of winded down his performing career. But basically, his songs are, vehicles for improvisation. And on my CD, I basically reimagine all of his songs. I don't really play them the way he did. I don't use his chord voicings. I completely screw everything up, and I think he probably would have absolutely hated the disc. But his estate is getting royalties from it, so they shouldn't complain. But in a way, it was like for me kind of coming back into improvising, but through the filter of my contemporary classical music life. So it's, but I'm like I said before, I'm very happy with the disc and how it came out. I was also given the most exquisite conditions to record. The composer Virgil Baldeep, who is based in Las Vegas, has a label called TNC Music, and he was kind enough to invite me to record this Monk project for his label. So a couple of years ago, I went out to Las Vegas. I had 1 week to record in a beautiful, beautiful concert hall, a great Steinway Grand, a fantastic recording engineer, and really the best conditions to do this work and to really have it done in the right way and without any compromise. So I was very, very happy to have that. So this is, in a way, it's like a legacy. I'm glad this is out there.
I'm glad too. Now, you started as a jazz pianist, but of course is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. When I was maybe in my late teens through my very early 20s.
You mean you have lived through your teens?
Oh, I did. Yeah. I'm old. I'm older than you think. I'm 63.
The last time I looked at you, I think I'm the one with the white beard. You're yet to grow one.
If I let my beard grow, it would be all white. Really.
We believe what we see.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
But,
yes.
I would say from really in the 1970s up through really 1980, I really thought I was going to go into jazz because I loved it and I played a lot of jazz. I was lucky to have mentors like Dick Hyman, who was an extraordinary musician and who probably was and still is my major musical influence. I was fortunate to work with Bill Evans, a very influential jazz pianist. We did a book project together. But I think what happened was I was also interested in composing for concerts and classical music, and I gravitated more toward that. And I kind of, I could always come back and play jazz once in a while, but I never really developed my own style. But then what happened in around 2011, my first wife passed away, and I hadn't been really performing because I had been basically spending time nursing her in her final months. Then I thought I want to come back into the music world, and I thought I'm going to start kind of regressing. I want to go back and play jazz. Let's see if I can still improvise. So there was a restaurant around the corner from where I live where they had these jam sessions that were open to musicians. So I started going to these and playing with rhythm sections, and I found that I could still play, but it wasn't coming out sounding like fake Bill Evans or fake Oscar Peterson. It was coming out a little different. Maybe I'd be too presumptive to say more original, but it was something was going on there, and I thought, well, now that I'm trying to come back and reinvent my whole life, which I basically did, I met a lovely woman from Italy who's a painter who lives in New York, and we got together, and now we're married. And then I started improvising again. I thought I have an opportunity to perform, so I thought, well, why don't I play Thelonious Monk's complete songs, because this might be a way of getting attention. So I started working on this project, and it almost became like a composition where I would interweave all the songs into one big continuity, and I was thinking very much of the arc of the evening as well as how each individual song would be approached. So, but what was happening is, like, sometimes I would just improvise off the top of my head, but sometimes I would create a very deliberate pastiche of a style. Or, I would treat them each way. And so in a way, what I was doing, but I didn't realize this until later, was I was actually creating my autobiography at the piano, filtered through Thelonious Monk. At least that's what it seems like in a way.
Yeah. Nirvair Kaur Khalsa, one of my students from Tucson, Arizona, she responded that it, quote, and I quote her, "Destructive force of a tsunami, a torrential flood if you are drowning."
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
What do you say to that?
One of my cats, no, it's okay. One of my cats was running across the...
No, that's okay. Not a problem. Cats are all welcome. I have one too here. I mean, not in this room, but yeah.
We have 2 cats.
Oh, okay. You beat me at that.
No, and they're always in my room when I'm working. In fact, one of them is always, especially if I'm composing and I'm at the piano, the cat named Shuby, who's a red tabby, always comes up to the music rack and he starts trying to mark his territory, and his timing is not the best. He's very inconvenient.
I can come to sort him out if you want, especially for that.
Oh. That's
anyway, yes. Talking of you starting as a jazz pianist, and then but you play a lot of contemporary classical piano music. Would it be? Would you be okay being called as like a crossover artist, if at all, or how do you see yourself?
I don't know what you would call me, but crossover. It's funny, the word crossover in America, I think, it usually implies something where you are. I guess it's something like Placido Domingo singing Frank Sinatra or something like that. It kind of implies that you are, or a classical artist playing pop songs. I don't know if I call it. I don't know if maybe you can say crossing over, but it's not. I don't feel like I'm being populist at all in these arrangements. I think it's actually rather uncompromising. But I would say that, maybe you could say genre bending.
I see. That's a good one.
I don't know what you call it. I mean, if you want to call it contemporary classical, if you want to call it jazz, I don't know. But what I think I do achieve, though, and I was talking about this with a friend the other day, is that I think in my Monk performances, and I urge everyone to order this CD on Bandcamp, is that I think that I achieve the timekeeping that you get with the best jazz players, where you have that real sophistication with timekeeping and the sense of rhythm, but with the touch of a classical pianist, with the tone and the differentiation, because a lot of jazz pianists tend to play very much on top of the keys with not very much dynamic variation. But I feel like, I mean, of course there are exceptions. One of the great exceptions is Keith Jarrett, who is an exceptional classical pianist, but as an improviser, oh my God, what a genius. And also, what was interesting with Keith Jarrett is as he was playing more and more classical music in public, his improvising started getting a lot richer pianistically in terms of tone quality and nuance. And he was doing a lot of things where, both hands were becoming more and more independent. And, it was just absolutely wonderful. He is a huge, huge hero of mine. What wonderful. And, I think some of Keith Jarrett's improvisations, where he's just improvising from nothing, I think the best ones really are just as good as any written out contemporary piano composition, and oftentimes much better. I've done on my radio show, sometimes I'll say, okay, I'm going to play a piece of music. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to tell you the composer. And they say, wow, this is great. Is this Samuel Barber? Is this Elliot Carter? What is this? This is amazing. I say, hey, it's Keith Jarrett making it up. But I just got to call it as I hear it,
Right. By the way, there was something about the water story. Meryl had written Meryl. Okay, she had mentioned.
You have to have Meryl as a guest because she is a wonderful pianist, and she also composes and arranges.
Really?
And
I'd love to.
She's made a lot of recordings, and we are performing next year. We are playing Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring together on two pianos. I got a lot of practice. But she's a great virtuoso, and she has made these really interesting piano arrangements of songs of David Bowie.
I see.
Very interesting musician. So she would be a great interview. And she's originally from Turkey, and she's been in the United States, for many years. So remarkable.
That's fantastic, because I called the day before yesterday to my very dear friend, Qawwali singer, Dhruv Sangari, is a student of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, because he does a lot of travels to Turkey. I was asking him, because I'm going to, by way of this, because Gurū Nānak is the second most traveled person in history. And and if they discount, because many people don't want to mention that he also visited the Vatican. They don't want to tell what he asked, the questions he would have posed. But if that would be, he would be the most traveled person, but at least he's the second most traveled otherwise. And I'm planning to cover all the countries that there are by way of the series. And Turkey just came day before yesterday. Now you mentioned Meryl is from Turkey, so that'll be fantastic. It just fits my Meryl. Yeah. I'm going to be knocking at your door soon, but she had written. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, right. She's a great interview also.
Look forward to that.
And I think a wonderful musician. So definitely. Plan on that. Yeah.
So she's responded to the loose changes as that it was like water, and then there was one gentleman who wrote, I think Amarjeet wrote that water. No, she continued writing that water can be an angel or a monster, and she with a smiley, of course. And then, this Amarjeet saying, one gentleman, is a regular, one of our friends, who joins in very kindly. He says, could you give an example of water being a monster? And then to that Nirvair wrote, destructive force of a tsunami. She was not responding to you. In fact, she corrected me. So to him, because I see the comments here, I don't see them as responses. I see them all in one line. So I can't know unless they write to the name on this, on my window, on my my control desk. So Nirvair Kaur from Tucson, she's, you mentioned about Meryl being Turkish American. Nirvair is Swedish American. So she wrote that water like destructive force of a tsunami, a torrential flood if you are drowning.
Exactly.
And then, of course, she writes that she corrected me in that. So Meryl, Jed, Meryl is going to sue you for attempting to embarrass her by your response. She says, "I'm totally embarrassed."
Goodness.
And she says, by all means, yes, but says, thank you guys, but you can stop now. So, stop talking about her.
Yeah.
So she's telling us, shoo. And then Juicy has one query here. She says, does Monk's style influence your way of writing classical contemporary music?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Juicy Caruso's query. She asks if Monk's style influences your way of writing classical contemporary music.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. That was a short answer, Juicy.
Or I don't think so. I don't think he's, maybe very superficially, but I don't think.
But then,
there's any.
Because me and her were talking about you, and she wanted me to ask if about your relationship to the music of Thelonious Monk.
Well, I think my relationship to it is that I've enjoyed it, I've studied it, I admire and respect it, and I acknowledge its importance. And it's also music that I think the way that I used it, I reused it just as a springboard for this improvisation, because the songs lend themselves to interesting treatments. And I think he's one of the most important jazz composers, and I always found his music very interesting. From the structure of the songs are very interesting. His piano playing is very personal and idiosyncratic, and it's something that I'm fascinated with. But I am no means an expert on it, and I don't think that I approach it I don't approach it with the way that Monk was very specific about how he wanted his songs played. When he knew he had a real strong sense about dynamics, touch, attack, and he cared about all of this stuff. I'm just really reimagining them. I'm taking the melodies, but I'm reharmonizing things, and I'm just using it really as a personal thing. So I don't pretend to any authenticity at all.
But talking of improvisation and inspirations, or sort of influences, if I may, before we began, you mentioned about your learning of Indian classical music.
Sure.
How was that interaction? I mean, tell us about your learning of that and your association. How did it come into, and what exactly was it? But does that somehow figure in when you look at yourself as a composer? Did that interaction also open up certain avenues, or was it just?
Well, I think so, because I think that a lot. Well, certainly, I think when I'm composing, a lot of certainly, I think improvisation will inspire ideas and certain gestures I get from improvising. But then, if I'll put something on paper and then I work it out, but I feel that the improvisatory impulse is very important to have. And the spontaneity in composing. I think it works both ways. You have to have the spontaneous gesture because you have to get the material out there, but then the composing part is the stepping back and looking at it from a distance and rewriting or refining, or maybe not, but it's stepping back and saying, hey, that improvisation works as a composition. Maybe I'll just take this one note down the octave or something, whatever. But I think I had so many influences of me. I think when I was coming up composing, I was certainly influenced by my teachers. I worked with a teacher, Andrew Thomas, who was a wonderful composer. And in many ways, he taught me how to teach myself, because when I would bring him compositions, he would analyze what I did. He would step back and he would say what worked, and he would kind of explain why. And he would say, now look at what you're doing here. This relates to the opening gesture, and here you're developing it. Maybe I wasn't aware of it. And then when something did not work, he would give me explanations about why do these measures not work so well here? And I would have to answer the question. And then it would usually be like, well, maybe this doesn't work here because I'm just being very vague, or I'm just spinning out notes and I'm not really invested in these notes. It's interesting. I recently wrote an opera with a librettist, Luigi Ballerini, and it's a very intellectual kind of opera. It's an opera about an artist, a sculptor. Anyway, we had a reading of the opera back in October of last year. There are parts of it that I'm very fond of, but there are also some parts where I was being very facile and the music is just kind of spinning along. But it's not very memorable because I'm just setting text, and it's a conversation that's just kind of meandering. And if I go in and out of the music, I wouldn't know where I am. But the music that seemed to mean the most to me were things that were the most specific melodically, or things that really made a strong statement. And when the music just kind of got complacent and mechanical, it was very uninteresting. So now I'm revising it and I'm thinking, okay, I have to really be invested much more in the revisions, So, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, but there are composers who I did not study with who influenced me a great deal. Somebody like Elliot Carter, for instance, is one of my big heroes. I think he's someone whose music I've enjoyed probably more than many contemporary composers, but I certainly put him on the top as a big influence and inspiration. And he lived until 103 years old, and he kept developing his style. And even the music he wrote in his 100s is so wonderful. And as he got older, he got simpler and more direct. There was more air in between the notes, and humor was starting to come out. And it was just wonderful seeing that kind of trajectory. Everybody talks about who are the great young composers, the great young pianists, the great young this and that. But I think for me, it's more interesting seeing who are the people who are really keep developing at an advanced stage. Yeah. I was thinking Dick Hyman, we were talking about, who's a wonderful jazz pianist. He is 93. He is playing at full capacity, and he's also composing really beautiful, heartfelt music that he's not trying to impress anybody. There's no artifice anymore. It's going directly from his heart and his experience to us. And then I'm thinking in classical piano, there was a great pianist, Earl Wild, who lived, I think, till his mid-90s. He was playing at his best when he was in his 80s. I mean, he always played very well, but somehow something started really coming together, and where it's hard to explain, but I think he really did his best playing them. Think of Arthur Rubinstein. Here's somebody who kept on evolving and evolving and evolving. And he was a very daredevil, brash kind of pianist when he was younger. And then in his 60s and 70s, he's getting a little more, okay, I'm going to do more of what's in the text. I'm going to be purer. I'm going to get rid of all the flashiness, and I'm going to get closer to what the composer wants. And just seeing that evolution is so wonderful. And, even with somebody like Leonard Bernstein, he was the great boy wonder, and what a amazing career. And then you see his conducting and his composing in his late 60s and 70s, and he's leaving out a lot. He's not going crazy all over the podium. He's getting more thoughtful and evolving, and this is what I think for me is so wonderful. Think about Verdi, writing his best operas when he's in his late 70s. He wrote Falstaff at 80. Amazing work. The English composer Havergal Bryant, who lived, I think, until 96 or 97, he composed up until the age of 92, and he wrote most of his symphonies past the age of 80. And it was this incredible development where he was writing these very compact and very terse and very inventive works that are so different than the music he wrote when he was maybe in his 30s and 40s, which is large scale and much vaguer. And this is what interests me more, is just seeing how people develop as they get older and older, probably because I'm such a late developer, so I kind of relate to that.
I somehow see it all as, thank you for that wonderful, the way you began with the Indian, sort of interaction to the rest of the spectrum from your side of the world, or your side of the piano, your side of the keyboard. It's almost like a formation of a planet, isn't it? In the beginning, it's all dust in a way, and it settles down. Life is there. A planet is formed. There's water, there's air, there's atmosphere. Or like an ocean, in the beginning, there's a lot of muddiness, and then slowly it settles, and it becomes clearer and clearer as time passes. When it's still fresh water, somehow I'm reminded of. That's the image that comes to my mind listening to you relate to that.
I think what happens is, maybe as one gets older, there's less need for artifice or to impress people. And I had an interesting experience during the lockdown. I told you earlier I was in touch with a lot of musicians, and what I noticed was that some musician friends, some pianists, were posting videos of playing piano, and they were doing videos on their iPhones, and they generally were playing very simple pieces. And part of it was, the limited bandwidth, or, you can only have a YouTube video that's a certain amount of minutes. But what I was noticing was that, like, for instance, Stuart Goodyear, who I was talking about before, he was posting videos of little pieces by Debussy and Grieg, Beethoven's Für Elise, very different than the kinds of things that he's known for, playing the complete Beethoven sonatas in a marathon concert, or playing Liszt, or playing big flashy pieces. He's playing all these little pieces. And also Angela Hewitt, from her London home, she was posting small movements from Bach pieces, two-part inventions, very short things. And I think maybe what that was saying is that during this crazy time when we're trying to control the pandemic, we're trying to control the virus, and we don't really know what's happening, is that we're thinking about what's essential Like, we're thinking about why are we making music? Or we can't be out there to impress. The thing is that we all have to be good citizens in this period. I'm not saying we have to be patriotic. I'm saying to be kind to one another and be considerate and to help people out. And in a way, like doing these videos, playing short pieces and giving some kind of comfort rather than giving people too many things to think about or to, confrontational music or combative music. I'm not saying, like new age music, but I'm saying just playing things that are heartfelt and direct, and so in a way it's kind of a public service, and that comes back to why are we in music? I think musicians really should think of themselves as being in the service industry. We are serving music. Now, I'm composing the kind of music that I want to compose, but I'm also thinking about somebody has to listen to it. I just don't want to write for myself and throw it away in the closet and nobody hears it. There are people who have that attitude, and that's fine, but I feel that we are, in the final analysis, in the service industry. We're serving music, we're serving the people who listen to it, and that is, so in a way, being a good musical citizen first, thinking of yourself that way, then if you think of yourself as a good citizen, then being a good artist will kind of take care of itself. I don't know, that's my convoluted theory, but...
Oh, I think it says a lot. I do think that the unnecessary goes away, but also richness pours in. I think the literature becomes much more dense, much more richer. The language becomes much more purer, much more eventful, in fact. Much more happens in less number of notes, if we were using notes. If I may share something I wrote at, something poured out at, I don't know, if you can, 5:18 a.m. Early morning today, right? And and this is a pakhabaj, thing. And I shared it with one of my students, Nihal, who's from Maryland. And it seems that I have had it in my head. It doesn't seem to be new, right? It's been there. It's like seeing a star up there, but which you could never touch, which you could never converse with earlier, but which just suddenly comes calling and lands, and you pick up your diary. There's so much that goes without noting, but this one I picked up and quickly wrote it down. It goes like this. So 16 beats. And there's something unique. I asked my student who's quite versed with, he's listened, in fact, he's much more oral experience of all the recordings that there are in the world on tabla and pakhabaj than I would ever imagine, because I'm sort of, being the custodian of perhaps the oldest living percussion system. I'm sort of always busy conserving, recovering, and so on, so analyzing. I don't get a chance to hear much beyond. And I asked him if this family of compositions, buonasera, la signora milanese, io parlo poco italiano.
Bene, grazie. Come sta?
Non male, io sono, mia moglie è di Napoli, così parlo italiano, ma poco.
Una delle città più belle d'Italia.
Ma Jed, ma perché non è portato Jed, mai portato a Napoli?
Adesso la prossima volta che andiamo in Italia dobbiamo andare a Napoli.
Okay.
Assolutamente.
I told Jed that I'm going to take him to Napoli and I'm going to scandalize him in Napoli.
Oh, let's go to Napoli together, because your wife is Napoli.
Yes,
right?
and we should plan that with Maurizio's down in the other floor. But yes, but we should do that.
Absolutely. No, I'm so happy because Naples with the Neapolitan is much better.
And you know what I did? My friend at at Stefano at Rai Radio 3, he was having fun with me. Stefano Roffi, he's the producer. He said, you're coming on the 6th of March for Radio Rai 3, but why don't you do something, Italian? And what did he tell me? He says, why don't you try? And I said, I'll do something, I was working with Renaissance era musicians with, I was, put together an ensemble with Michele Carreca, and then his wife Carolina Pace, who plays the recorder. Then, of course, Valerio Losito plays the Viola d'Amore, and also the lira di braccio. And we had Valentina, who played viola da gamba with, in the ensemble, and Chaslav Balasingh came. He's a pianist from Conservatoire Paris, but he came and got a harpsichord, and we were all together. I said, let me think of something maybe, from the Baroque or Renaissance era. He says, no. Why don't you look at this O Sole Mio? And here I was on Radio Rai 3 singing, Ai regama che bella cosa, una giornata sola. And I think Italians looking at Radio Rai 3 were, I think, shocked to see a bearded guy with a turban singing Neapolitan.
Well, I'm really looking forward to meet you in Naples.
Yes, let's do that. But I this fellow of yours has just been gossiping about you that you're a painter. Maybe one of the days in this Baithak series, Virtual, we have been conversing with some of the top Indian artists. Maybe we should steal your time, and love to see and share. It'll be great if you could share some of your work with all of us in this Baithak series as well.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
That would be fantastic.
Bennet.
Okay.
So, bye, ciao.
Can I still steal Jed for some time, because I'm not giving up yet, huh?
Okay. I'm going to my studio. Bye.
Okay, bye. Yes. Arrivederci.
Ciao.
So, that was fun. And this one.
I interrupted you because you were reading this to me. I'm so sorry.
No. This is absolutely fine. So this is 16 beats, and I was telling that asked Nihal if there is this family of this class of composition exists, and he says no, it doesn't. So this is something new, and I don't want to go into the technicality, but we're looking at the idea of composition and an age, of course, just in that context. It goes like 13, 14, 15, 16. It begins like that. So, Now this, for example,
wonderful.
It just thank you. They just came in the morning. Now my point is that I never wrote it earlier. It seems familiar. There's a deja vu about it because it comes in a class of it goes on like that, right? But it came today. And there is a logic, and it's written. This is my first draft. It is not even there is, you can see there is, if you can, there is no correction as such. This is the original draft. And it comes in 16 beats as if it was tailor-made for it. This is it. This is the first draft.
Wow.
Right? And these, the brackets are one beat. Each beat of how many syllables, how many mnemonic symbols are within that. It's a perfect notation in that sense.
And look, I have to come to New Delhi. I want to study this system with you. I want to study.
Yeah,
I have to study.
Would be my pleasure. Would be my pleasure.
I would love to.
Yeah. So a point I'm making is that you as a composer, this is my experience. I'm just sharing. So I'm not just coming from, I'm coming from a lot of ink spilt on paper, not as a blank, not talking as an alien to the idea of composition, alien to the idea of music pouring out, And there is at times when we have to do some things where we say, all right, I have to do this, I have to write, I have to put together.
Sure.
But then all of that, all the training comes handy. All those years and years and thousands of hours banging our head on the rock, as it is called, the tasteless, licking the tasteless, rock. That's practice. They all come handy. But then when it pours out like this, as I shared, it just is few hours old. I've never played it before, and I shared it immediately because we were summarizing your brief. So Nihal was helping me out, putting, the brief we wrote down. And I said, hey, listen, there's something that comes, because normally we have Farmaishi Chakradhars, which have an ending, but the first dha, there are three enders. So let's say there could be a first prelude. It could say, I would like to have a cup of tea. Oh, yes. I ate lunch and I was nice and the food was nice and the taste was good. Oh, but I want to have a cup of tea. I want to have a cup of tea. I want to have a cup of tea. So this could be a composition that goes with one rhythm, second rhythm, then the tehai with I want to have a cup of tea. I want to have a cup of tea. I want to have a cup of tea. So T came three times. So it could be a composition when repeated three times. The first I want to have a cup of tea would come on the first beat once, and the second cycle, the second I want to have a cup of tea, I want to have a cup of tea would come on the first beat. Exactly. And the third time, the third cup of tea would come on the second.
Right. We do similar things in Western music.
Right.
Having phrases that can repeat and then you change the accents around. Of course, these are wonderful structural things that are both intellectual, but they're also intuitive, where they all kind of work together. I mean, think of Baiṭhak with folk material. I was just listening to his music for strings, percussion, and celeste again the other day. It's such an amazing piece. But now I want to go back to my Nikhil Banerjee recordings.
Yes.
and go to these jors, with these incredible,
I'm so glad that you liked him, because I have felt that Nikhil Banerjee's uniqueness is because he has he's associated with two very important teachers, but the most important one is Radhika Mohin Moitra, whose touch it is. I mean, you can hear the sarod in the hands of, or Sur Sringar in the hands of Radhika Mohin Moitra, his first and the most important teacher, and later on he went to Alauddin, became a classmate of Ali Akbar Khan and Ravi Shankar. But I think that's somehow something there.
Well, I think also Banerjee, there's a sweetness and a purity of his sound where he's not trying to impress you. I mean, he has a great technique, but he is, you really hear the alap. There's a purity, where you will, when he's exposing the alap, where he really is caring about the resonance, and he takes a lot of patience. That the other one who was wonderful is Imrat Khan.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Especially with the bass sitar.
The Surbahar.
He was
the
another.
Surbahar, yes. He used to play the Surbahar. Yes.
Yeah, what a genius.
Yeah,
This is. I mean, I'm not an expert on this music. I'm not pretending to be an expert. I just am responding to musicians who I just have this intuitive response. And anyway, but
I have before we play, there's something I want to tell you. I have written for the first time, and Czesław, the pianist from Poland, who's now in the process of shifting with his wife Alexandra. She's Polish as well. She's a PhD in something chemistry. She's an educated one. So she's shifting. Her company, I think, she's getting transferred to London. I have written for the first time the raga system in a polyphonic work, but without following the harmonics, which I don't know what they are. I've never spent even a minute trying to understand, nor the chords. Right. I have zero idea about the idea of chords, but I am using the idea of how a rag, if it is playing, how would the second line go and correspond to that, right? Without dissonance. In that way, I've already written. I'm working on 5 original compositions of Gurū Nānak, my ancestor, being a direct student of, one of the foremost disciples of his 5.25 centuries ago. So some of his original music has lived in our family, and I have been working on that. And I've written for the first time. I've transposed. You talked of learning the ancient system. This tradition I represent and I'm a custodian of is the oldest surviving percussion system in South Asia, and most other in North India are its offshoots. I have written for the first time percussion, transposed it on piano or harpsichord or anything. I've written that. What? So if it goes, for example, I've written for the keyboards.
I would love to see. Would you send this?
I'll send you, because I don't write in the staff notation. I write in Gurmukhi and Czesław, because he's also half Sikh like my kids, Luigi and Leonardo, and he reads a bit of Punjabi, and he is the one who's putting them on the notation in the West. And so I look forward to maybe we can work on some of these aspects, and you can imagine how mouth watering it was when I heard you and the friend you mentioned about Zewski, when you mentioned about him playing it on the on the lid, piano lid,
right. And this has just been so stimulating, Bhai, and I'm so happy we have a lot of this conversation is going to continue for many, many years. I know.
Look forward to that, actually. And
what you
go ahead. Yeah.
Anyway,
go ahead.
You've given me a great start to my day. I mean, this is evening for you, but this is still, now it's just 12 noon. We've been speaking 2 hours. My goodness.
Only
2 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how much time do you have? You have some time, or you would want me to wind up soon?
Unfortunately, I have to. I have a commitment in about an hour, and I have to feed my cats. And today I'm being a housewife. I have to do some grocery shopping, and I'm there. I have a seminar I'm doing tonight. Today's it's kind of a busy day, unfortunately.
I see. And
but thank you for.
No, it was wonderful. There's so much that there is to discuss, and we haven't even played everything that you shared with us.
Well, let's have another meeting, and I'll play for you on the computer. I'll get my piano tuned.
Yeah.
We could do.
Yeah, we could do that too. Yes, and let me see. I was trying to. Oh, Virish, there was a. What happened? Let me see. There's something that I was trying to show you. Just give me a moment.
Okay. But this is going out live on. This is going out live on Facebook.
Yes, it is. We are live on Facebook. Yes.
So is this recorded also? So
yes, it is.
Somebody,
it is. Yeah, it is recorded.
I think that it would be nice to share it with some people who didn't get to see this. I would love to. I'll have a link to share. I could put on my website, and
Yeah, and but there is.
Juicy is here?
Yes, that was a surprise.
Hello, yeah.
Ciao.
That was what I was trying to do.
Maestro gentile. Va bene, sto bene, Juicy.
I cannot hear you, Juicy. Can you hear Juicy?
I see her speaking.
But we are not able to hear her. Come on, Juicy, we could hear your hello.
Oh.
And let me try to reconnect her.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That was we were planning. I had told her, I said, why don't you join in? It'll be fun. And just because you said that you have to go, so I was trying to call her now. And
no.
Let's see if she.
I have a little. So it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm here.
And it'll be wonderful to.
I just plugged into power.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Because I had
the call is going.
On, but,
yeah. And meantime, here she is.
I have the problem. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Almost there.
Hello?
I think. Yes. Now we can see you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Hello. How are you?
Come sta?
Benissimo. Ciao, bella. How are you?
I'm very happy to see you both together. So very happy. It's wonderful. This time of lockdown at the end could meet people together, no?
See?
Many contacts.
Exactly. So you have Beethoven in front of you.
Yeah, I have a Beethoven. Yeah, because I'm practicing my concerto, but also some sonatas and everything. So this is the year of Beethoven, and you mentioned also in your discussion, and you wrote also the bagatelles. So Beethoven could be here, no? Anyway.
Yeah, I guess so.
Why don't you play something for us, Juicy? Can we coax you? Can we beg of you to play something?
Yeah, but you know that I have this electric piano, so I don't have my grand piano.
We are all under lockdown.
Maybe I was thinking, just because you talk about Naples, that I can play an homage to Italy. So a tarantella, that is also, related to these rhythmical elements that you mentioned before. So the talas, and you know that tarantella has a very strong rhythmical parts in it. And is a tarantella by an Italian composer from my region, Calabria, from Cosenza, my city. It's Alfonso Rendano. Alfonso Rendano, was a pianist, but also composer. He lived at the end of the 20th century. So maybe I can play something of this, an homage for Jed and Mima that I saw before. So an Italian homage to both of you, Jed.
Oh, wonderful! And then I'll play something after. Too.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, it will be great. It will be very, very great. So, Tarantella by Alfonso Rendano on my electric piano.
Okay, great. Perfetto.
Thank you.
That is
I mean, the quality of the piano is not very good, but it was just a present for you.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Okay, I want to give you.
Listen to Jed now.
Well, I think speaking of, I think I'm going to play a little Scarlatti sonata.
Great.
Ooh.
Can you hear?
Can we change the position of the camera maybe?
Let's see. Ooh, this is going to be tough. I think how's this?
Yeah. Can you make it a little lower somehow so that we can watch something? Okay. We won't be able to see your hands. It's okay.
Well, that's okay.
We're still not fed up looking at you, so it's okay.
There's a little Scarlatti sonata.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Oh, grazie. I played a couple of wrong notes because Shubi, the cat, was jumping on my back while I was playing. Shubi was crawling up my back when I was playing.
I was even trying to. I wrote a message to Meryl on her Facebook thing, but I don't think she has seen it. I was, in fact, I'm just saying because I don't think she's seen the message. Otherwise, I was trying to get her to join.
To play. Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But anyway, this was fantastic. Can you put the screen a little lower, Jed?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
this is good. Yeah, this is good. So this is fantastic. I'm so glad, Juicy, that you could join.
A nice little sonata.
Nice, thank you.
That's one of my favorite sonatas, and Actually, there's a big Scarlatti project I'm starting, but it's not quite official yet. But I'm going to talk to you about that, Juicy, actually.
Okay.
I mean, you want me to close my ears?
No, because it's, we're at the
There
very
was something
beginning.
prospective in it, huh? You didn't want me to be privy to that. Look at that, Juicy.
No, because this is a project that it's just at the very, very beginning where a few friends of mine and I are trying to organize a project of getting one pianist each to record each Scarlatti sonata to raise money for musicians impacted by COVID-19.
I see.
So,
good project. Nice idea.
Yeah.
But I haven't written you about this because the infrastructure is still being organized. So it's bad luck to ask people to do something and then the project falls apart. So right now it's just in the talking stage.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But this little piece I played, I heard this pianist play it very, very slowly with all the repeats. Very much like. Which could work, but it takes 10 minutes.
That's fantastic.
Well, anyway. So
thank you so much, both of you. Really, Juicy, thank you for connecting me to Jed.
It was a pleasure. Don't wait to take time to Jed because he's your guest, and mine was just a present to both of you and from the Italian taste.
No, it's so wonderful to hear you. Gosh, it's great seeing you. I miss you. I mean,
thank you for mentioning also our meeting in Milano and Paris and then New York. I have a very good memory of that.
Figurati. No, I think you are doing such important work and what you do for new music. I mean, it's just great. I feel like, our piano community is so precious, and as with this situation, it's become even more so. So I feel like I just feel so lucky to, be part of it,
Yeah, thank you for telling that I'm an outsider. Haha.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Did you hear that, Juicy? He said our piano community. That means I'm excluded.
No, but you are in.
You are caught red-handed, There's a Freudian slip.
No, I think it is but I think we're all in, the music community is so, what we have is so important to keep and to communicate, and that it has to prevail in times of crisis. And I think it always has, and we just have amazing opportunities, so I feel that this is going to be a very interesting time. I'm curious to see all the history books in 20 years,
Yeah, what they are going to write about this and music and musicians. It is like after a world war, actually. We have to react like musicians in the world war, but for a virus now.
This was worse than a world war, actually. It's just the whole world is engulfed. World wars, they were called world wars, but they're not really world wars. They were between people who control the world in a way. But it was not really. This is engulfed. This has gone beyond that. The impact on the economy, but also life prospectively. If the world wars lasted 4, 5, 6 years, the impact of this virus, this pandemic, is prospective. We don't know what's the end. It has altered the way of life. Our idea of concerts is gone for unforeseeable future. The idea of meeting between, you talk of your friend, testing positive. One of our dear friends, who's one of India's finest dancers, Geeta Chandran, tested positive the day before yesterday. and she's made it public. There's such stigma now. This is all the stereotyping, and she's taken, the lead now in terms of telling the people that it's coming. It's in our neighborhood. It can happen to you. And I think the impact is much more. We've never seen anything like this in the history of mankind.
Yeah, in our time, yeah. I mean, you had the influenza
but
pandemic.
Those were small. They were not really impacting like this in a way,
Yeah, because of the travel, of course, because it's, viruses can travel wherever they want to. Yeah. So we will see, but anyway.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. And I cannot thank you enough. And we'll continue because we still have, I guess we'll, in the next weeks, maybe next month, as a part B of this Mela, we can continue listening from the third piece onwards, and
I'll send you some more things, and anyway, thank you so much, and anytime.
Yes,
okay, so Juicy, great to see you. So
yeah, thank you too, and greetings from Brussels to all of you.
Yes.
See.
And people still loved, they remember your Baiṭhak. It was the third one. And we need to get together again, Josie.
Yeah, with pleasure.
Okay.
Maybe, we should do, before we say namastes and bye-byes, Josie, I'm doing with, one of these days with, I think this Sunday with Vidushi Neela Ramgopal, one of the finest, singers of Carnatic music. I'm going to be I'll be starting with the composers, but then also with T.S. Satyavati. We'll be doing the 72 Melkartas. And maybe one day we could just have a 3-hour, 4-hour session with you. Why don't we plan that? Next session, maybe in 2 weeks' time, let's do a marathon. We've done 4, 5, 8-hour long Baiṭhaks here. Let's do one on Jack Charpentier's 72 Melkarta Ragas.
Wow.
Yes. Okay.
Would that be fun?
We can discuss that with pleasure. Thank you.
There's nothing to discuss. I just invited you. You said yes.
Okay, that's great.
And Jed's a witness, huh? There's no.
I am. I will be there. I'm going to watch it.
Yes, that'll be fantastic.
You put it on, I'll watch it. Of course, I'll promote it.
Wonderful.
And Juicy concert very soon on June 29th.
Yes, from the Italian Institute here in Brussels. So I'm very honored to play without public, but in live streaming from the theater of the Istituto Italiano di Cultura in Brussels. So
let us know. We'll
keep in touch.
Tag us. We'll love to have it on my page as well, and would be glad to share.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay. Anyway,
thank you, Jed.
so much.
Thank you so much for joining, really. You want to say something to everyone who joined? You're welcome. The mic's with you now.
Just peace and namaste.
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 Satkartar.
Okay, be well. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
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 So friends, that was my conversation with composer and pianist Jed Distler, and of course it was fantastic to see Juicy Caruso join in from Brussels. If you remember, she was my third guest as part of the YaarAnād Virtual Baithak Series. And I'll see you tomorrow. Is a wonderful, it's going to be a wonderful Baiṭhak. My conversation with I'll be going to Hamira in Rajasthan with the family of Sakhar Khan, the late Padma Shri awardee. We'll be listening to the music of Jaisalmer area. We'll go to village Hamira, and I would want you to join us tomorrow. I'll be sharing the poster and the details later today and early morning tomorrow. And thank you all for joining. Enjoy a wonderful evening ahead. And it's a night time here. It's almost 10 in India. Namaskar. Khuda Hafiz. And to all of you, those who joined, I see Janab Riaz Ali Qadri also joining in from Kabula Sharif, and Cheslav, all of you from London, so many others. Thank you all. Thank you one and all. and I'll see you soon tomorrow. Sat Kartar.